hearing directly from the Illinois governor, who the White House has been taking on today, urging him to call the president and ask for help fighting crime. J.B. Pritzker refusing that ask and instead issuing a warning about what he called authoritarian tendencies. He said that authoritarians thrive on silence. He was talking to citizens of Chicago who may specifically be dealing with ICE agents targeting illegal immigrants and others on the streets of Chicago as celebrations of the country of Mexico are looming in that region. Now, I want to bring in our panel here into the arena. We're joined by national political reporter for the Washington Post, Sabrina Rodriguez, CNN political commentator Jonah Goldberg, and Jamal Simmons, and CNN senior political commentator Scott Jennings. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Scott, I know you spoke to the president on the, at some length on your show. Did you address this with him? Because, I mean, look, overlaying all of this, of course, Pritzker likely a presidential candidate in 2028. Very much, Donald Trump has focused in on states that are run by Democratic governors, especially those with high-profile potential futures, Governor Newsom being the other example. What did the president tell you, and how do you see what Pritzker did here today?
Well, he's obviously very focused on Chicago, and as he confirmed in the Oval Office, they do intend to go in. He did not reveal to me when they intend to go in, but it's certainly going to happen. That's number one. Number two, he doesn't think much of Pritzker or the mayor of Chicago, frankly, and had several insults for them. Number three, he believes what he did in Washington, D.C. has been a brilliant success. And he's familiar with the statistics on the number of people who have been arrested, the amount of illegal guns that have been taken off the streets here, the immigration enforcement that's gone on in Washington. And so I gathered that he sees that as a template for rapid reduction in crime in places like Chicago. And I would just note while we've been sitting here that the mayor of Chicago, of Washington, D.C. has apparently signed an order welcoming federal law enforcement presence indefinitely in Washington. And she has said that it's working. And she has said that she appreciates the surge of federal resources. So when I spoke to the president, what I sensed was someone who believed he'd gotten it dead right, that you can have rapid results. And why wouldn't he? He has a responsibility as the president to go into these cities that he believes are in a crisis of violence and mayhem.
Jonah Goldberg, you are a longtime conservative, of course, not as friendly with the president as our Scott Jennings over here necessarily.
Check true.
But look, the president clearly thinks he is on winning political footing. But honestly, Washington, D.C. is a different city than Chicago. It is a distinctly different, you often go back to the way the Constitution is written. Is any of this okay?
Yeah, so first of all, very different cities. First of all, if you throw a sandwich in Chicago, that would be an outrage because Chicago sandwiches are much better than D.C. sandwiches. But no, more broadly, look, I mean, because the president thinks it's a crisis is not a constitutional thing. The only time the word co-equal gets used a lot in Washington as if there are co-equal branches of government. They're not. Congress is superior to the presidency. It was the intention of the founders. The only time co-equal appears in the Federalist Papers is to describe the federal government's relationship with the sovereign states of the United States. The president cannot simply unilaterally declare an emergency and override the constitutional obligations that he has. If that's the case, I would just caution a lot of conservatives who celebrate all of this, and I'm all for crime reduction, but the conservatives who are celebrating this, you listen to the mayor of Chicago talk about the gun crisis in America. Well, what is to stop, given the precedents that Donald Trump is setting, what is to stop a Democratic, a Governor Pritzker, a Governor Newsom to say, we have a gun crisis in America, just as legitimate on the facts argument as a crime crisis, and say, we're going to send the National Guard into states to go get their guns. There have to be standards here. The reason why Pritzker I get it for the politics. He keeps saying Trump was begging me to ask him to come. The reason why Trump is asking Pritzker to ask him is because that gives the president legal authority that he doesn't otherwise have. And he doesn't want to get overruled in the courts if he just violates the Posse Comitatus Act, violates the structure of our Constitution, and rides roughshod over the prerogatives of a sovereign co-equal state. Governors do not answer to the President of the United States. They answer to their own states and their own voters.
Jamal?
Well, the president's obviously setting up a regime that has a lot of very bad characteristics. There are military forces on the ground. He's threatening to put them in other cities. The president is now interviewing and vetting military officers before promotion for some of the general staff. We see real questions about the ethical limitations the president doesn't have anymore. The Supreme Court saying the president can't be investigated. It all seems like the leader has decided what he wants is the law that's supposed to carry, and everyone else has to adjust. We'll see whether or not the courts push back enough to stop more of this from happening. We've seen some good rulings over the last couple of days, but these will end up in the Supreme Court. And so far, the Supreme Court has a very mixed record about how much it's willing to restrain the president.
Was it the phrase "the leader" that got that eyebrow raise, Scott Jennings?
Well, to refer to the duly elected president of the United States who won the national popular vote and overwhelmingly in the Electoral College, a regime, to me is a little beyond the pale. Look, he won the election on two things.
But to Jonah's point, I mean, if a Democrat was saying, hey, we got a terrible gun crisis, we're going to send troops in to take them.
Stop them. I guess the Second Amendment would be one thing to stop them, but we can debate that later.
Congress has sole authority over trade, and the president's argument is that by declaring an emergency, he gets to take away those constitutional prerogatives from the House. He's declared 9 emergencies since he's elected, so that he can violate all sorts of constitutional norms when it comes to deporting people and all sorts of other things.
Do you believe it is violating constitutional norms for the president, the head of the federal government, the head of the executive branch, to be enforcing federal immigration law? Because a big issue here, there are over 500,000 illegal immigrants in Illinois. I suspect most of them live in and around Chicago. Why wouldn't you surge federal law enforcement resources to the place where that many people are violating federal law?
Yeah, you didn't hear me talk about ICE. I'm talking about the National Guard. They're different things.
Wait a minute.
Well, he's talking about doing both, and I grant you they're separate pots, but do you believe it's wrong for the president to send ICE, CPB, because the Democrats in Chicago don't want any of it for some reason?
Oh, I'm not here to defend the Democrats in Chicago. They suck too. My only point is that there are constitutional rules and prerogatives here that the president has made really clear he doesn't give a rat's ass about. And neither do a lot of the people who just simply say because he wants to do it, therefore he should be able to do it because he's declared a crisis. And as the president said, I'm the president of the United States, I can do whatever the hell I want. That is not what we have in this country.
Well, he is saying that he believes it is his responsibility when there is an emergency in the country to try to respond to that emergency. And what he has also said is that these Democrats should be asking him for help. And by the way, what's happening in Washington right now, I think, shows what could happen when some local person, even a Democrat, says, actually, you know what, this is a good thing.
But I stipulate he has the constitutional authority to do it in D.C., right? He doesn't have the constitutional authority.
Why would a Democrat
resist? How is it an
That's a different
emergency?
question. That's a fair question.
No, here's the question. How is it an emergency when you have people who are showing up for legal hearings to adjudicate their status and about their citizenship and their ability to stay here, and they are being grabbed out of hallways and taken to rooms where people don't know what's happening to them? How is that an emergency?
Well, it is an emergency that we have millions upon millions upon millions of illegal immigrants in this country that were let into the country through open borders, and now we have to try to get them out. It is, I mean, our view is it's absolutely an emergency.
I don't know. I have a friend who has on her wall her great-grandfather's emancipation papers from the 1850s. And he had to carry those papers around because at any point he could be picked up because of the color of his skin.
You're comparing slaves to illegal immigrants?
I am saying, when you watch some of the video of people being taken down the streets of Washington, D.C. and carted off, which look an awful lot like this is just happening from people because of what they look like. That is very concerning to me, and it feels a lot like they are being targeted because of what they look like and who they are, not because of what they've done.